Nearing 24 million listeners, I'm told, sir.
Said Dalton to McDermott.
Just to watch a peace summit.
To watch the most powerful realms of the multiverse.
Broadcasters and translators of every language repeated the words of the Royal Bengal announcer.
And here comes the gunslinger, Talon.
Welcome back to the official companion podcast to Buffalo and the Multiverse, the only podcast where you'll hear us talking about Mafia, Buffalo versus the Multiverse book. I am your host, Cory McCants.
I'm Travis, the writer.
In this podcast, we talk all about Buffalo Bills games, the players, what's happening in Buffalo, and how it all affects this amazing, timeless novel that is Mafia, Buffalo versus the Multiverse. So, what you just heard was a clip from our chapter that we're discussing today, which is Buffalo versus Eternity, the Bengals, right?
That's right.
So before we get too started, let's have Travis walk us through a recap of what we're going to be discussing.
Absolutely. The exhausted Buffalo Bills are summoned deep into the jungles of the Royal Bengal Raj for a so-called peace summit to decide the seeds of the super collapse, the playoff seeds, when everything stops in a heartbeat with Hamlin having the most severe injury we've ever experienced.
Yes. So, if you tuned in for the last episode, it got pretty heavy, as it did in real life, and I think this chapter is more of that, which also reflects what we were going through. So this talks a lot about Damar Hamlin, about the situation, but you managed to do it in a beautiful, respectful way. So I am excited to get into this chapter. Can we start with the hook you just gave, with the audio we heard coming in?
Yeah. So in this moment, the Bills had 6 straight wins. The Bengals had 7 straight wins, and we were undisputed. The Chiefs had both been beaten by both of us. They're undisputedly, these were the 2 contenders. The question was, which one of these will win the conference? And they were going to play on a Monday Night Football game, which would determine the 1 seed, which means that playoff bye that is so important. And everyone was tuning in. I mentioned the 24 million because that is the number of people who had tuned into that game.
Yeah.
Record-breaking TV audience. And then we've had a lot of history with the Bengals almost as like an ally to the Bills because they played the Ravens back at the end of the drought, and it really was their pass, Andy Dalton's pass to Boyd against the Ravens that unexpectedly won the game. Meaningless to them, but it meant everything to us. I think most of us will remember being somewhere on that New Year's Eve watching the end of that game. And
I was at Dave & Buster's. That's exactly where I was.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you said you're a gamer. Does it make sense that you were at Dave & Buster's? Exactly. And kind of mixing your 2 passions? So,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I was at Dave & Buster's, and somebody was there wearing a Ravens jersey.
Okay.
And so they were like getting booed and stuff like that. And I just remember it was me and my girl, and we were with another couple, and us like trying to explain it. Like, look, we need them to do this for us, because it's like that's not our team. Like, we're not even playing. Like, no. Yeah. So it's big, so it's explaining how it's a bigger game, and so when you show that they're not necessarily enemies in this section, that's true to life as well, because there's been times in the past where they've helped us out. You might not realize it, but we need you. We need you to win this game. And so that was the energy.
100%. And that's what my feeling of the Bengals, compared to almost every other NFL team, I was like, I actually really like the Bengals.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton, I gave him a whole bunch of money at the time, as most Bills fans did. There was a huge surge to his charity, which we mentioned in this, as a thank you, to be like, you just ended the longest drought in the history of sports, 17 years, and it hurt all those 17 years. So, it wasn't like, oh my God, the Patriots, I hate them. Let's set them up as that. So, and that was a fun change of pace. And also, I intentionally brought all of the players who are still on the team who were part of the drought, had them like come forward and acknowledge Andy Dalton, who's the ambassador still, and in his fun little costume. And one of my favorite costumes and pictures, by the way. I just wanted them all to like take a picture together. Again, if this was a movie, just to see like, okay, so it's Poyer, Hyde, Trey White, whoever we list in here, and plus McDermott and Ferguson. And a lot of people will accidentally attribute Josh Allen as being a part of the drought busting team, but he wasn't. It was all pre-Josh. So get to see the veterans of the Water Wars having their little moment with Andy and to just try to bring out that energy that I was feeling, and I think a lot of us felt for the Bengals of like, this is good, and we hadn't played them, so our only memory for 4 years, 5 years maybe, just like last time I saw them on TV, I wanted them to win, and they did it, and they didn't need to. So when I think about Joe Burrow, he comes from I think they say like a lineage of prestigious athletes going back like half a century. And so that sort of, and he's kind of got that clean shaven, blue eyed, blonde hair look of like royalty. So I'm like, let's make him kind of a pretentious prince. And we're going to mix that with the jungle. And it all started to fit really well into this idea of like the British Raj, when the British were like I think the East India Company and sort of spending their time controversially in India. So if you saw the movie Gandhi or like that period of time when the British have control, but they're still like outsiders in India. Just a lot of the British kind of like privilege and monikers of the late 1800s, especially with that like flair of the subcontinent involved. So that became the universe we set it in.
To see India, or what I guess would be their version of India in this multiverse is really cool. The colors pop, and it's like so many people. You talk about the 24 million listening. I think later in the story, we you say there's 9 million in a space built for 6 million, and so like the idea of how many people are there, you show it visually, we hear it, we read it, but it is that feeling of like everybody's here. Yeah,
of course. A lot of what I like about this book and why I wrote this book the way I did is that I enjoy traveling a lot. I love going around to different cultures, and I love the interaction of different cultures, and just sort of like, you had said it once with like, what's Captain America and Iron Man talking, like, what is that like and how that's kind of exciting. And I feel the same way when it's sort of like, what is it like when, or what would it be like if you took, again, these heroes from the Wild West, your Wyatt Earps, and what if you just put them in the heart of like the Gandhi movie, and like just what those things are interesting. So, and I wanted each page to have the chance to like take you to a different world and different climate and all that. And so I think my first clip sort of takes us from that freezing cold winter ice storm back in the West to the tropics in the jungle. Streaks of white waterfalls poured from the green, only to dye brown as they collected nutritious mud. The Buffalo soldiers forded these rivers with bison or walked the rope bridges. They boarded a waiting steamer with one stack and white vapor, enjoying tikka masala and naan as they cruised upstream. Does that really advance the story? Probably not, but I did it because it's just so indulgent to the things I love, and I can't just describe to you, like, I wanted to enjoy the pleasure of like taking our guys and walking them through the glaciers of the Wild West, through the largest portal they've ever seen, into a jungle, and just really taking our time to like see the waterfalls and to actually cross the bridges and the rivers and like how far it's going to be, and just kind of getting deeper and deeper into like an expedition. I think that just really hits the things that I love.
But it also, as a viewer / listener / fan, it is visual for us as well. Like, we do have the visual representation of a lot of the things, but to hear the train tracks, and to hear the smoke, and to hear the bells, that does, if you're in it, you close your eyes, you might warm up a little bit. You feel like you're in the tropics. So that attention to detail isn't just self-indulgent. It does also help the viewer or the listener, because it does all the heavy lifting of like, where are they now? I was just in this zone of ice and Sabertooth Mountain, and now like that's how you train. That's the portal is that. So when you add that detail, that puts us in the portal too. So it's good.
Yeah, and it's like I just think it's fun to travel and to like slowly discover these things sometimes instead of just dropping them right into like the heat of a battle. It's like, nope, they're gonna like take days to like slowly get there, do a river cruise, and like find, just they see Bengals on the shore, they enjoy the food, they're whittling their stuff, they see their first elephant, a giant elephant, and and that's all just sort of setting like, okay, so now there's like a city that's going to be there, and there's like, oh, all these people are here, and I don't know, slowly building into it.
Yeah.
So that's how we get to the city and the Bengal Raj. Arc lights snapped on from the colonial turrets, and the spotlight swung and found the same parade route, only now filled with drama, flair, and theatrics. Secretary Lord Taylor followed the Bengal color guards in not a Rolls Royce, but an elephant hoda, a throne-like saddle intent on a Bengal elephant as large as the giant of the jungle. He didn't wave, but he let the drums beat behind him. The day and the who. The announcer billowed into the speakers. The multiverse heard translations.
Her Majesty's Imperial Bengals have won not 6, but 7 battles in succession.
Jungle.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So after their travels to get to the parade, and they're here, and it's just so lively, like all of this, I feel like I could see it, and it's so beautiful. And like each multiverse, each universe you paint is so distinct in itself. Like this compared to the last one are so different, and it's to think like, well, is Travis trying to like, show his range? It's like, this is the difference. They went to this game, they played this game, like the Storm happened. Yeah. This is all just what's unfolding, and you're putting, the real world stuff into here. And so that's also just how it laid out, which is so dope.
Yeah, really this game, there wasn't much game that we experienced. So like all that we're kind of going on in our memories of what this game would be is like all the pomp and circumstance of like, it's going to be Burrow. He's basically the best athlete we've ever seen against Josh Allen, who's basically the best athlete we've ever seen. And look at them Bills and look at them Bengals, and like all just building. And so like you've got us 9 million people just like, and all we got to see is the big pregame show, the ESPN and all that before it switches. But I also like the sort of the change up here that it's not an ultimate enemy that we're facing. Like we think the whole presumption is that like the Bengals and Bills are sort of like these parallel ships that don't really see each other much, but in the geopolitics of the multiverse, they've helped each other, and that good standing is going to be used as a G2 instead of the G7, like just the two of us. What if there were just two of us having a little meeting about how we're going to rule the world? And
I do love this scene with like everyone like the showcasing, you know what I mean? Everybody's showing off and stuff like that.
Part of that comes too because I remember Dawkins saying in a press conference days later, just like how he like hadn't been jacked up for a game quite as much as this. Like everything was a little more elevated in a long time. He's just like, they played the Welcome to the Jungle song, and like it was so loud in the stadium, and I just felt like this is it. And then for it to all just sort of like become silent was such a big contrast when the incident happens.
I was really intrigued by that part because you already painted the picture of it's not an intense battle happening, right? And that it could be, Bengals versus Bills, is it going to be super intense? This is one of those times where we just got done with something super intense, and we just got done with a few intense things. And so leading into where this is leading, I think it's great that this is where it goes. But still, there's some, sneaky quote unquote behavior, like what you're trying to do. Yeah. And so they try and outdo everybody. Yeah. And then we get into Damar.
Yeah, and I needed to be very thoughtful about how we portray the incident.
To go back to real life, for those that like don't remember or like kind of, you're iffy on what happened. I mean, it was an accident, and it was Damar making a tackle. So it wasn't like Damar got hit. He made a tackle. He got up, adjusted his helmet and all that, and then before he could take a step, he just collapsed. And so when you talk about an accident or something that wasn't didn't mean to happen, it was. I think this is very similar.
Wrong place, wrong time. Helmet hit him at literally the 1 millifraction of a heartbeat that probably would never happen again. And doesn't happen to football players every time they get hit, usually. No. But it's not impossible either. So it was important to do that. And also, like, in a world here where they're constantly, drawing guns and crossing swords, it needs to be a moment that's a bit bigger than just like a random stray. When painters, minstrels, and poets remember this year for the Bills, they will very likely say that the greatest catches were Utah Davis, grabbing a flying razor with one hand across town and ripping it out of the hands of the Steeler gang and snagging a 98-yard deterrence bomb. The greatest shot was Josh sniping a bullet through a robotic lion's jaws of death to spring the latch on Diggs' trapdoor in O-Town. But it should be undisputed that the overall best play of the year, if not the greatest act in the history of the Buffalo Bills Wild West show, was from a no-name farmer who didn't have 2 first names of greatness or a legendary backstory known across the multiverse. But on the second day of the new year, Denny Wellington helped execute the most difficult play with the highest stakes and the most people watching. Resurrection.
Yeah.
It's even just like hearing it back, it is incredibly crazy. I mean, we all lived that.
Yeah.
But like, and I think we all know that the odds are long, but it's just insane to bring together those two things of how much we care about sport, what we expect the boundaries of sport to be, which is like the worst thing that can happen is you lose or someone has a career-ending injury. It's the ultimate outlier that someone's going to pass away. And then it's also insane. So it was just pointing to that contrast, even in our multiverse language, to just be like, we get so excited and proud of a great Diggs catch, of a great Josh throw. But it's unbelievable. And like the best Bills person, the best Bills teammate is doing the hardest thing ever. His real name's Denny Kellington. That's insane. I mean, it's so much harder than throwing a bomb. They said the odds of someone surviving any heart attack outside of a hospital is 10%. And so to have 24 million people witnessing a 10-minute CPR battle with a great team of specialists, but it just helps put into perspective just the incredible moment that this was and how lucky we were to have the outcome we did. It's just impossible. It's really hard for me to even put it into like possibilities. It feels biblical to say that someone, it's hard for me to know what you even call it, if he's dead or not, because it's like, did he die and come back to life? It just gets into really complicated territory. That's how insane and big this football game was, this first period.
To be a fan, a person who saw this, not on the field, not anywhere near, but everyone that saw it, it was something in that place with like those cameras. These weren't cinematic cameras, these weren't actors, this wasn't a set. It's always different. You see this stuff happen in movies all the time, but this was different. It was live. It was, it was really happening.
Not fiction.
Yeah. And to hear the lack of noise from that crowd. So to think of how many people were in attendance and to hear how quiet it was. This wasn't, you hear fans go too far all the time and they say nasty things to players they don't like, and they do nasty things because they forget that these are people. And in that moment, when these were the stakes, everybody was just hoping. It was something that you couldn't prepare for, you wouldn't expect. I don't think this has ever happened in NFL history, you know, where this game where people are getting hit and like you said, career-ending injuries are happening never this far. So we talked about it. I think it's Comieto cordis, I think is what it's called.
Well done.
I think that's what it is. I don't quote me on that. I might be wrong. But like you said, it's a condition where your heart gets knocked out of rhythm. So in the moment when your heart is at rest in between a beat, if you get hit and it knocks out of rhythm, cardiac arrest. Mm-hmm. And like that's what happened in this. And so it's so odd and so like unexpected.
Yeah.
And to me, it'd be difficult to portray that happening in a different light. I'd be scared. I'd be scared to be like, okay, how am I gonna approach this? Mm-hmm. And I think the way you did it, I commend you on how you did it because it was respectful, it was appropriate, and it made sense, you know. Good. And so in this, for those, you know, if you don't, so in the story, as everybody's doing their showboating and showcasing, Hamlin is his attempt. He does his heart hands, right? He shows that to everybody in attendance and everybody watching, and it's just beautiful. And it's choose love, which is what he's talking about. And it's great, it's happy. But at that moment, the Bengals, their planes are doing their showcase, and they want to end with a bang. And so they drop bombs to like show this giant showcase that happened to be falling right where Hamlin is. And so this accident of him getting caught and having to dodge out the way of these bombs. And, you know, now you got people rushing. I think even in one of the images, you know, you see him on the ground and you see people rushing right to him.
We're looking like kind of from bird's eye view down. We can see some of the Bengal airplanes, black and orange tiger stripes flying overhead because they just dropped the fireworks. And then the two characters we see would be Hamlin on the ground and then Wellington racing in. I think they said he got there in like 9 seconds and started treatment. There's 3 pages in a row, which all depict, I don't know if you caught this, but they all depict a heart at the same size in the middle.
Yes.
My man Cory got it.
Yeah.
I was wondering. Okay.
So obviously the first page you see the Hamlin hearts, him, you know, his hands as hearts, and the next page you see him kind of like in a bit of a crater, and that's in the shape of a heart. And then you see like the cave image, and that's a heart. I actually wanted to mention these like next 6 pages because even after that, you depict, you know, the players, on the field, like the emotion that was there, and just like in real life. I mean, it was how can you not? You don't know if you're watching this person not make it, and so the emotion was through everyone was at its peak. But the players, you know, you see Allen and you see Diggs and you see players on the other side. You know, everybody's super emotional. And we mentioned before, you see their players praying, you know, whatever you do, whoever you talk to, whoever you ask for assistance, ask them now that Damar is going to be okay. And that's what was really going on.
It's just such a sad collision of things, or hard to process. And now that we've seen it, like, I think we've crossed into a different realm where it's like the people that we normally see as outside, like not impacted by current events, not impacted by, and if so, they do it in such a press conference-y way usually that, you know, it's so measured and sort of like sanitized by the machine that is a professional organization on purpose, that they don't seem to be living in the world that we live in, where it's just like messy and you get people have holes in their shirts. And in a way, it all kind of ties. You mentioned this statement that I keep reusing and Damar uses, choose love. And those 2 words became very much the chosen words of the Bills organization after the May 14th shooting that happened in Buffalo. And And that might be an example of what I'm trying to say is like the real world disasters, crises are happening. And usually when the NFL shows up, they got their big coach buses and they've got the T-shirts already made and they've really thought about the words and all that. And I think they're the right words, and we all would, well done. We want to choose love in that situation. Even in that case, I think Josh spoke really eloquently about how awful racism is, and the next steps to take is to condemn it wherever you see it. And so kudos to that, and not just ignoring it and being so measured, but this that we witnessed, we didn't have any filter. We were just watching it, and so that's what I wanted to bring out. I am putting the filter of the multiverse on it, but I'm trying to do it in almost the lightest touch I can, where I'm just trying to say like, these are the things that happened, little vignettes, and you know, all the power that you're bringing to it is all it needs.
There is to go back to what you were saying about, you know, the tragedies and how many things happened, because that is mentioned in here. And I do think I do notice that you took the time when you talk about May 14th, which was a tragedy in Buffalo. You know, to have a person come into a city with the intent on killing black people, and to go to a local grocery store, go inside and literally shoot black people.
After scouting it, it's premeditated. He's filming himself. All inexcusably horrific.
Yeah. And I think and so I noticed that you take the time to mention it, and you also take the time to mention these people's names, which is so important. And so I thank you for that, because that itself is a battle that black people of color deal with when it comes to being represented in the media. It is very easy to show them being dismayed, being murdered, and all this stuff. But the humanization of them is always forgotten somehow. And a part of that is not mentioning their names when they should be. But you don't mention the victim's name, or you show that, or the perpetrator's name, and you show the perpetrator was a good kid and misled and all this and that. And so in this way, mentioning a person's name, and you know, you might have heard, you know, say their name, and it comes in different ways when someone's murdered by police officers or something like that. But it's always important to humanize these people. And so to mention their names and say who they are in a place that will live forever is also important. So I thank you for doing something like that, just as a creator, as an artist, as a writer. And it's not something that should be glossed over, because that was intentional to do, whether you had that intention or knew, you know, like how it would come across or not. It was an intention to do, and it's appreciated. But it also shows the delicate care that you take with these real life events and this masterpiece that you created here, you know?
I mean, it's important to always show, I think, how valuable, in any crisis, how valuable the victims are and how much they are our neighbors. And it was important to learn about who those people were, because they aren't just they're not just extras in the movie.
They're not a side character. No. They have as much of a main character as we are in our own lives. And that is what's interesting as a storyteller, and important, and something I did think about, because here I am devoting 2 years of my life to making Josh a main character, and then picking who's the next 6 main characters and who are the baddies. And so at the very least, making sure that our heroes do get acknowledged, especially in this crossover season where I could imagine like not every season of sports needs that much attention to like what was going on and, you know, what was the weather like that year. Yeah. But when it's like natural disaster weather, or like what were the I don't know what we'd even call that, but like what were the important touchstones, the undeniable ground earthquakes of our community. Moments,
That was a great thing to mention, and I think makes the podcast much better to talk about beyond just this stuff. So
to get back to the chapter, right after everything we just discussed, so we see Hamlin down and he's going to get rushed off, and then there's a part where we talk about McDermott, and I think it's really powerful, because I wonder if this is what was going through his head. The decisions that you give him, I wonder if that really is
Yes.
where he was going or what he needed to decide between. But can you talk a little bit about where your mind was in that?
Yeah, because exactly, like those decisions had to be made at some point. This reconciliation of like, well, we've had injuries before. And normally we just start the game again and we just say a prayer and game on. But we've never had this injury. We've never had players this emotional. There's just so many things. And who's going to answer that? And as you watched it unfold, it's like the refs are kind of looking at like, this isn't really our call here. Yeah. Definitely the Bengals team and coach is like, definitely not our call, but they're kind of looking at us. So everyone starts to look at McDermott. I'm sure calls are made to the NFL. If I remember right, Joe Buck on the broadcast says, in 5 minutes, we've been told by the NFL the game will start. And I wonder if that was the call of the NFL to say, like, we're gonna resume the game. Game has to happen. I don't know what happens behind the scenes, but what we do know is that McDermott says, we're going to the locker room. And then at some point, the Bills don't come back out. The game is canceled. People are measured by how they handle the worst situations, Absolutely. The highest pressure Absolutely. Situations. And that's why I think McDermott needs so much credit for handling this in such a mature, adult, human way. I think it's an obvious coach of the year. Nobody has ever dealt with the decision. I don't care if you took a team that wasn't supposed to do very good and you got 6 more wins than you're supposed to. Like, what are we measuring? This person took what presumably could have been a death on the field. We weren't sure. And he had to make a choice of like, are we going to make this into like a speech and try to like make these guys, you just imagine how hard they would play because you get so keyed up. You also are setting a precedent for the future of sport. Yeah. Of like, if someone passes away in a game, does it get played? Well, it got played Bills-Bengals in 2022. Big decisions. Yeah. So I just wanted to say here, basically, it seems like McDermott is the accidental leader of the multiverse, and he made the call to choose love.
Choose love.
And that becomes the refrain. And I have so much respect for the man for making that choice and handling 53 men and hundreds of adults and humans who need to find a way to get through a tragedy together and also at some point play football again.
And to answer a question that nobody wanted to answer.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to be the one to give the answer to that.
Yeah.
And someone had to.
Yeah. And then, I don't know, you remember what Diggs was up to during this period? He's the one guy who didn't take the team bus back in real life.
Yeah. Did he go to the hospital?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, it's just, it's Diggs being Diggs. He's a cat. You can make suggestions, but cats have their own ideas. And for better or worse, I'm not saying he made the wrong choice at all. But he's like, I'm going to go get my own Uber and I'm going to go to the hospital. And I know it's only for family, but I'm going to force my way past the police. Like, the police said no.
Yeah.
And he's like, no to you. Yeah. I'm going to go and visit Hamlin. He's my man. I'm not coming down either way. I respect it. But in this version, I got him getting a tuk-tuk, following that airplane wherever it goes. He's the best spy in the multiverse. He's going to find his way in. He does. And in our version, this is a few chapters down the line, but he stays with Hamlin. He's like, I'm your guy. I'm going to be here. So Diggs will be kind of missing, helping out. He's going to shepherd that. So there's that, which takes us to kind of that final moment of this chapter. McDermott lost them in the basement of St. Lombardi's Basilica and told the first acolyte in the halls why and exactly how he needed to find a linesman. McDermott was rushed away through the Holy See. Tablets were consulted, untouchable law books referenced, and chains moved. And the middle manager referred McDermott to an officiant priest, who heard why and exactly how McDermott needed to have an audience with none other than Prophet Roger Godtells. So I picked this McDermott is taking over main character energy for a special side quest into. You remember we set up the religion a little bit, the Smitten faith, and the officials and all that. So he's going to the heart of that, kind of like a Vatican type city, and it's a world where it's all black and white men in robes. All the officials are officiants, and he's going to work his way up the chain of command, including a small arrest, to eventually talk to the Grand Pope Poobah, Prophet Roger Goodell. All of the things that a coach and officials are dealing with for a whole season. You know, I just kind of bottled it into one little package of like coach versus refs. Saint Lombardi, the Lombardy Trophy. But Lombardy is a city and province in Italy. So it's perfect lineup. So Vince Lombardi probably has heritage somewhere in Lombardy, Italy.
It must.
And all these just Italian Vatican names. In the Comestine Chapel instead of the Sistine Chapel, but the Comestine, the Commissioner's Chapel room. Making this big decision, like a conclave, they have to make a NFL decision about, are we going to like play the game, reschedule the game? What's that mean for timing and seating? If not, behind closed doors, they put the shield up. I don't know. It's just loaded. If anyone's here for the nerdy references, I just, went to town.
How do you feel when you're piecing it together and like it comes together like this? Like fits so perfectly. Are you just ecstatic?
Yeah, I'm ecstatic. I'm just like, oh my God, it could be this. They say move the chain. Like, I basically just went through like what happens in a conclave. And I was just like, okay, so what would that scene be? And then every opportunity possible, I'm like, oh, but that could be a football thing. Yeah. Because they do seal them in with a very fancy lock. I'm like, well, that should be the football shield or whatever. And just have fun listening to that part again and see if you can find them all. And it's just so perfect that the people who officiate the rules of the NFL, they just feel like that's what a lot of religion is in a lot of society, especially this society, you know, the antiquated society of like, they're enforcing what is right and wrong. Especially old days, the Pope had a lot of power. The Catholic Church had a lot of power, even in geopolitics. It wasn't just about the militaries, like the Bengals or the Bills, deciding like, well, we're going to take over that continent, or we'll do this or that. Sometimes he had to kind of be the arbitrator of like, Portugal can have this part of South America, and Spain will have this part of South America, and we'll call that good, because you both sort of need to be on the church's good side as well. That feels a lot like sport.
And at this time where you said like there's a decision that has to be made. So who do you go to? It makes total sense. For me, when I was listening to it, as soon as that music kicked up, and as soon as we got to this end, you end on this line. It was simple. It was universal. It was paramount. Love for Damar. And this does get into what I'm assuming we'll talk about later when when we get back into Damar. But so like the music ramps up, and I just so happen to turn the page while this music is swelling, and there's just this incredible image of all of the hearts that choose love from like everybody in the multiverse. You know, every version of it with the Damar heart hands. That is just beautiful. You're trying to make us cry is what's happening. This is what's happening. Travis is trying to make us cry, and he thought he was going to get me. He almost got me. He got me almost here, and almost with Super Kate almost got me. But these images are just like, oh my goodness. This is so beautiful. So beautiful.
Every NFL team, but also like most baseball teams, most hockey teams, everybody was showing their love and support, and usually it was heart hands. So if this was what our feeds would have looked like. It's just like people everywhere just trying to say like, we saw it, we feel a lot of feelings about this, and like, please find a way out. And there was this period of not knowing. Don't forget, we all know now that it's a happy ending. I can just remember like every morning and every couple hours being a little obsessive about refreshing those headlines. Damar, and then you say refresh. It's just still no, and progress was made, but he wasn't waking up. he was functioning, but with the support of machines. And but yeah, on here we've got a few Easter eggs of like Tom Brady, and he made a huge donation to Chasing M's, as many people did. But yeah, a lot of the teams that we've played are here. Sabres are here. If you missed it, Tage Thompson from the Sabres scores his third goal with 3 minutes left in the period. And it was his third hat trick of the season. And it just, those things, I don't put a ton of weight into them, but they're just so coincidental. It's fun to add. Yeah. So. And then Damar's number is obviously 4. So it's too bad that it wasn't 4 goals, but yeah.
His number is 3. So the idea of the threes being so powerful because Damar's number is 3. Yeah. The 333.
Most people were wearing 3. That was a symbol. So we would see that a lot. Like people, Goodell comes to the next Bills game with 3 on his hat. Yeah. Flags will go out on this field with 3s, and
showing love for Damar.
It was great. It was a time of fear and unity that a lot of the sports world and maybe beyond felt, and you kind of do like those moments, especially when Damar was. Most people didn't know who he was. Some Bills fans would have, but you had to be kind of a deep Bills fan to be like, who's our third string safety who's now stepped up. And as we acknowledge in the book, most people only know his name because he's made some mistakes, and like his name is called in the context of like, you blew the coverage. And that's why he's portrayed as he is what he is, a young person trying to find his way. But the character of Damar, super devout, super focused on charity and giving and love. And so like once the entire planet like says like, who is that guy? Yeah. He had a beautiful character that was very easy to be like, oh my God, I love him. Yeah. And like that, his little small no-name farmer message, let's amplify the heck out of that. Yeah. And that's really cool and good. So it wouldn't hit the same if the guy was a jerk. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that this is the perfect way to end the chapter. Mm-hmm. And I guess come to an end for this episode. Yes. So thank you for joining us for Bills versus the Multiverse, the only podcast where you get to hear us talk all about Mafia, Bills versus the Multiverse. I've been your host, Cory McCants.
And Travis, thanks for listening, everybody.
And if you want to try and find the book, audiobook, or some merchandise, where can they go?
PanAmericanFilms.com. And next week, the story of Damar isn't over. Mm-hmm. We're left in the gray. You all know what's going to happen, but the ultimate perfect storybook ending to this happened in real life, and can't wait to share that with my friend Cory and all of you. So see you next week.
See you next week. Go Bills.
Go Bills, guys. Go Bills.